Main clauses are Hauptsatz. A main clause is an independent, complete sentence that can stand alone. The word order usually follows subject, verb, object. For instance, ich, which is subject, lese, which is verb, ein Buch, which is object. I'm reading a book. Er geht zur Arbeit. He's going to work. Wir essen zu Abend. We are having dinner. Subordinate clauses are Nebensatz. A subordinate clause cannot stand alone and depends on a main clause to make sense. It starts with subordinating conjunctions like while, for instance, thus or when. Examples are Ich lese ein Buch, weil es interessant ist. Er bleibt zu Hause, weil er krank ist. Other examples will come. Wir gehen ins Kino, weil der Film gut ist. We are going to the cinema because the movie is good. Word order in subordinate clauses. Now this is very important. Every time subordinate clause, which is Nebensatz in German, in a subordinate clause, the conjugated verb always goes to the end of the clause, to the end of the sentence. For instance, Ich bleibe zu Hause, obwohl die Sonne scheint. Scheint, end of the sentence. I'm staying home although the sun is shining. Er geht spazieren, weil es nicht regnet. He's going for a walk because it is not raining. Sie ist müde, aber sie arbeitet weiter. She's tired, but she continues working. Now, coordinating clauses are basically two independent clauses that are connected by conjunctions like und, aber, oder, then, for instance. Both clauses can stand alone as separate sentences, so they are independent of each other. Ich lese ein Buch, for instance, it's an independent sentence. Sie schreibt einen Brief. Und is a conjunction that is connecting those two sentences. Er mag Kaffee, aber sie trinkt Tee. He likes coffee, but she drinks tea. Wir können ins Kino gehen oder wir bleiben zu Hause. We can go to a cinema or we stay at home. Stay at home. Infinitive and purpose clauses. Infinitive clauses often use an infinitive verb preceded by zu. So basically, zu comes before the infinitive, or damit. They show purpose or intention. For instance, ich lerne Deutsch, nach Deutschland zu reisen. I'm learning German to travel to Germany. Sie spart Geld, ein neues Auto zu kaufen. She's saving money to buy a new car. Er arbeitet viel, damit er seine Familie unterstützen kann. He works a lot so that he can support his family. Time clauses. Time clauses indicate when something happens. They are introduced by a conjunction like als, während, while, or before. This is very important, by the way, to know that how to start with sentences like als. For instance, oftentimes in stories, you are in small chat and small talk in German, you will need to be using these sort of sentences. Bevor ich ins Bett gehe, lese ich ein Buch. Before I go to bed, I read a book. Während ich koche, hört er Musik. While I'm cooking, he listens to music. Als ich ein Kind war, spielte ich oft im Park. When I was a child, I often played in the park. Bevor sie nach Hause geht, muss sie noch einkaufen. Before she goes home, she needs to do some shopping. So in detail now, main clause, a standalone sentence. In a main clause, the verb is always in the second position and the word order follows the typical subject, verb, object structure. This is a typical German structure format. Subject comes first, verb is in the middle, object is at the end of a sentence. Ich gehe heute ins Kino. I'm going to the cinema today. Main clause with inversion. The verb remains in the second position, but the subject follows the verb, usually for emphasis or variety. This inversion is often used in statements beginning with adverbs or time expressions. Heute gehe ich ins Kino. Today I'm going to the cinema. Subordinate clause or Nebensatz. A dependent clause introduced by subordinate conjunctions like while, thus, obwohl, or relative pronouns like der, die, das. The verb moved to the end of the clause. Ich bleibe zu Hause, weil es regnet. I'm staying at home because it is raining. Ich glaube, dass heute kommt. I believe that he is coming today. Main clause plus subordinate clause. A sentence combining a main clause and a subordinate clause. The subordinate clause explains or modifies the main clause and is set up by a comma. The verb in the subordinate clause is moved to the end of the sentence. Wir gehen spazieren, obwohl es regnet. We are going for a walk, although it is raining. Subordinate clause plus main clause. The subordinate clause can appear first, followed by the main clause. In this case, the verb in the subordinate clause is still moved to the end, while the main clause follows the regular word order. Obwohl es regnet, gehen wir spazieren. Although it is raining, we are going for a walk. Coordinating clauses. Two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction like und, aber, oder, denn. The word order remains unchanged in both clauses. Ich gehe ins Kino, aber sie bleibt zu Hause. I'm going to the cinema, but she's staying home. Relative clause. A subordinate clause that adds extra information about a noun. It is introduced by a relative pronoun, for instance, der, die, das, and the verb is placed at the end. Das ist der Film, den wir gestern gesehen haben. That is the movie that we watched yesterday. Infinitive clause with zu. A clause using an infinitive verb preceded by zu. It depends on the main clause and often describes intention or obligation. Ich habe beschlossen, ins Kino zu gehen. I decided to go to the cinema. Indirect speech. A subordinate clause introduced by das to report someone's words or thoughts. The verb moves to the end of the subordinate clause. Er sagt, dass morgen kommt. He says that he is coming tomorrow. Question as a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause introduced by a question word, for instance, wann, warum, wie. The verb moves to the end of the clause. Ich weiß nicht, wann kommt. I don't know when he's coming. Conditional clause. A subordinate clause introduced by when or false. The verb moves to the end. This expresses a condition that affects the main clause. Wenn es regnet, bleibe ich zu Hause. If it rains, I will stay home. Time clause. A subordinate clause introduced by conjunction like als, während, or before. The verb moves to the end. Als ich ein Kind war, spielte ich gerne draußen. When I was a child, I liked playing outside. Casual clause. A subordinate clause introduced by weil or da. The verb moves to the end. It explains the cause or reason for the action in the main clause. Ich bleibe zu Hause, weil es regnet. I'm staying home because it is raining. Just a quick recap on subordinate clause. Oftentimes, basically most of the time, you have the verb at the end of the sentence. At the end of the sentence, just so you know. Concessive clause. A subordinate clause introduced by obwohl. The verb moves to the end. This expresses a contrast or contradiction. Obwohl müde ist, arbeitet weiter. Although he is tired, he continues working. Consecutive clauses. A subordinate clause introduced by so does. The verb moves to the end. This shows the consequence or result of the action in the main clause. Es war laut, so dass ich nicht verstehen konnte. It was loud, so that I couldn't understand anything. Purpose clause. A subordinate clause introduced by damit. The verb moves to the end. It explains the purpose or goal of the main clause. Ich rede langsam, damit du mich verstehen kannst. I speak slowly so that you can understand me. Conditional sentence, main clause, conjunctive 2 plus subordinate clause, or vice versa. This expresses a hypothetical condition and its result. Ich würde dir helfen, wenn ich Zeit hätte. I would help you if I had time. Direct question, an independent clause with the verb second structure, verb subject object. No conjunction is used. This is a simple yes or no information question. Wann kommt er? When is he coming? Indirect question. A subordinate clause introduced by a question word. The verb moves to the end. It expresses a question indirectly. Ich frage mich, wann er kommt. I wonder when he is coming. Imperative sentence. A main clause with the verb in the first position and often no explicit subject. Geh ins Kino. Go to the cinema. Exclamatory sentence. A main clause expressing emotion or emphasis, often starting with wie or was. It is used to express amazement, admiration, or surprise. Wie schön ist das? How beautiful is that?